two reasons. One, they haven't met one. And two, we don't have a message. Without a message, we can't beat a Democrat machine. So, if you bear with me, I timed it out. It's only like 6 minutes, but I did write a speech because this is an overarching view, at least what I found in being a young new candidate, talking to different factions of voters, the messaging that I've ironed out, and talking to people, they are inquisitive about a broader view of why, as I think Ryan said, everyone, whether they're left, right, or center, feels that there's something off with what's going on in our current political climate. So, without further ado, government's only role is to set the stage for citizens to pursue happiness. Full stop. This, however, is a task the current leadership in Hartford has failed to do. A duty, at its core, that's very simple in actuality. It's simple because politics is local, just as the happiest things in life are small. Family, friends, your job, community, and most importantly, the freedom of choice. The freedom to pursue happiness. When your representatives don't uphold the common sense and the common values that make your community flourish, and its people united, that is a signal that it's time for change, and it's time to throw those people out of office, whoever they may be. Things we're raised to respect: the rule of law, stable families, our faith, whoever you may pray to, and having a functional, self-respecting country has been rendered intrinsically evil by the modern left and the Connecticut Democrat leadership. They want to destroy everything that's good, and they have, telling you what your values must be. To take them on, we must be honest about this ideological menace and be willing to get creative to curb their power. We must start an affront, using their strategies against them, and realize that our polite Connecticut values have steered us away from having tough conversations with voters that are required to win. This election is one of awareness, and it's only a problem of will. To me, complicity and incompetence are indistinguishable when we've reached a point when the desire to win is not enough. Not enough to change tactics after 30 years of losing. I do not believe in old republicanism, which is just progressivism driving the speed limit. In speaking throughout Connecticut, I've come to learn that old Republicans have existed to manage their voters instead of representing them. And that's why we lose. We must stand up and conserve the tenets that make Connecticut the best state in the Union. We're the Constitution state for a reason. The whole idea behind a citizen goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. It was a social contract between the people living in a country that we act a certain way and we have a certain set of rights. In America, it's the Bill of Rights. This ensures that everyone is treated equally. And everything else that happens is due to personal decision making. It is the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit, not the guarantee. And no government or politician has the right to put one cause or one group over the other, which is exactly what the Connecticut Democrats have done, and time again, our party plays into their narrative. The conservative movement was created to combat runaway progressives during the French Revolution. We are witnessing the same thing from the current progressive movement here in Connecticut. And we will need a similar surge in conservatism to combat this. We need to get voters excited to come out and vote for us. The word Republican is not a bad word. What Democrats in this country have done is hijacked our lexicon and not only control the narrative, but rewrite definitions favorably towards their social and political agenda. To fend off the despair that surely is coming and is already here, signaled by soaring utility bills, tax hikes, and a bad economy, we'll have to learn about our weaknesses and make some allowance for the growing pains that come with change. This includes that dangerous delusion that the adversaries of freedoms and civilization, the Democrats, are such masters of events that all it takes is to set wrongs is to defeat them at the ballot box. I disagree. They did not corrupt us, they merely took advantage of the corruption. Defending our rights and the way of life require both a political conflict in which we prevail against this emerging tyranny, but also a new way to think about what virtues might see us through to a new understanding of what constitutes the good life. We must begin by recovering sanity, avoiding the situation in which the serene are oblivious to the Hartford autocracy and the conscious are just bitter, cynical defeatists. Wisdom does not come automatically. It too requires struggles, like the voters in our state and districts. Our policy should not be written to preserve power, it should be written to serve the citizen. I believe the last 2 years have been a great awakening for individuals, especially when I go talk to them, when it comes to one simple truth. For the last 2 years, Connecticut leadership, Republican and Democrat, walked into your life and took control of your private property, taxing families into oblivion along the way. And while private property obviously includes things like your house, your clothes, your cars, all that stuff, etc., the Hartford establishment, and that's what this election is. It's not an RD election, it's a referendum on Hartford. The Hartford establishment, like the serpents they are, slithered in and took away your intellectual property. The hours of thought, anxiety, time, effort, labor, even just to get here. Whatever it takes for you to create something, Hartford came in and took that away. Voters understand that. Why does any politician think they have the right to tax that? What gives Hartford the power to tax the value you created and redistribute it? And if you're sitting here thinking of a few ways, consider that those laws were created by a ubiquitous party trying to ensure the power they have over your autonomy and agency. The last 2 years were an inflection point we cannot ignore. We cannot be complacent any longer. To give people more agency to pursue prosperity, we must stand for something. That something is individual liberty. Citizen representation is what I go around to explain to every voter. Citizen representation. We need to make it clear that the political establishment does not represent the citizen anymore. It represents their own interests or their own party. We cannot be afraid to be called an ism. It's weak, and it's letting them win because that's all they have left now. Abortion, this, that, it's pathetic. And the tides are turning. We know who we are, and we must lean into it unapologetically. We are the party that understands the only way to have a vibrant, libertarian town square with choice for everyone is to have a bulwark of conservatism in the legislature and in municipalities. As such, we must adapt to the times and recognize obvious truths. For example, in Connecticut, we have a mix of a corporate mercantile economy, where regulators are either captured by special interests or are ideologically insane. The worst part is that our politicians have masked this as capitalism. To me, incompetent capitalism is when the government says you can't buy European baby formula due to a shortage, and American companies can't sell it because it doesn't have enough soybean oil in it. And Republicans of the old guard capitulated to this so easily at every turn, sacrificing their citizens' success along the way. I believe healthy communities should have vibrant community centers and natural aesthetics to maximize the spirit of the town and to bring out the potential in every citizen. I believe in a government that's a safety net, not a hammock, and this can only be achieved by creative conservatism. Our government structure was carefully curated in a way to use its power to serve the best interests of the people, something all politicians have forgotten. And you can do that without becoming a communist or playing into the left's hand. It takes common sense investment into small business, not state contractors, reducing taxes and finding alternative revenue streams, encouraging ways to ownership rather than permanent subsidization. Connecticut's reactive policies is what got us here. We can do better. Instead of saying unity, let's actually figure out how, rather than kowtowing to magic buzzwords by the left, like Trump and racism and fear and abortion. Those are all words that they use to convince their voters that we're the boogeyman. We're not. We are the good guys. It's time we define what a Connecticut Republican is rather than let other people define us. We need to only have policy that puts Connecticut families first, making it easier socially and fiscally to have children. Children that are properly educated, not indoctrinated. And policy that makes it easier to own a home so the next generation can become the torchbearers, passing on our Connecticut values and accumulating generational wealth, however that may look to a person. Time to escape the old bonds of class and derive a higher consciousness of enriched possibility that knows no race, creed, or even political party. Just ambition. The founding of America, to me, is how ordinary folks seized opportunity. And I think this election is an opportunity we can seize on. The hollowed American dream is the gold standard by which politicians in Connecticut and voters alike are meant to measure the quality of life. Everyone's quality of life has gone down in the last 30 years. They know it, the Democrats' party knows it, and we know it. And as each generation pursues its own definition of happiness, unfettered by the law and position you start out from, it's about the equality of opportunity, not the equality of outcome. And we are the party that offers that, and voters understand that. Hartford is not a House of Lords. The story of America is the story of Connecticut and rooms like this, and it starts with working men and women and individuals curating their own community to thrive. And to do that, you have to be free of any political establishment or edict. And we have to start leading from the front again. And to me, when I explain this in obviously different variations to different voters, they feel it and they understand. And I think the Republican Party in this state is missing out on a golden opportunity to finally take the ball away. And to take the ball from the other team and not get scared when they talk about national media and Trump. They're not on the ballot. Fazio's on the ballot. Tony's on the ballot. I'm on the ballot. They're just going to use those to try to make Republicans scare away. And until we lead, no one's going to get excited about voting for Democrat-like. And I think that's a major reason why we lose. And I'll answer anything or whatever. But thank you for indulging me.
Any questions? Joe?
Sure, I'll start with one. So, given that you have a huge chunk of Norwalk, which is obviously very diverse,
Yes.
and judging by your social media, you spend a lot of time
I will be there tomorrow with some people in the
speaking. What's the feedback been across the different landscapes of voters? Like,
welcoming is the best word I can describe.
Yeah.
And
Willing to listen?
exactly. They're willing to listen, but again, everyone knows bacon costs $12. Everyone knows that. And especially in a community like mine where I have to juxtapose Norwalk and Darien, they have different values, different economic statuses, and they're both earned everything that they have, and they both have to be governed and treated differently. But it's not the message that is ubiquitous for both Republicans. The message to the independent voters is that they understand that there's a fundamental wrongdoing, and they have no representation. No one is actually being what the job is, which is a voice for them. So when you go into there and you show up and you say, listen, I'm a conservative, I'm pro-life, whatever, but if 70% of my constituents vote for it, it's my job to go out into Hartford, Capitol Hill and say, I'm pro-life, I'm going to be at all the marches, but 70% of my district want it this way, that's the way we vote. And once you disarm that and you tell them that the Democrat Party doesn't represent them, they don't want a handout, they don't want money thrown at the problem, they want creative solutions to fix things. And I think we're willing to listen and explain to them the idea that we are the Big Tent party, because we have to be. If you're a party of an individual, you can't not be, because we believe in policy that lifts up the individual. We don't want to keep them on a social safety net and a generational cycle of dependence, which is exactly the feudal system in Connecticut and what it's become. And voters understand that, they really do. And I think in a lot of the rooms I've been in, Republicans are missing the point. And they're, in a way, insulting the intelligence of voters. Like that gentleman brought up Hispanic voters. I mean, just because they might not necessarily have gone to, Norwalk's civics class, they understand the tenets of liberty. They understand what socialism did. And they understand when you have progressives running in with stuff that upsets their dinner table, they're holding their nose voting for Democrats. Republicans just aren't giving them a reason not to.
Thank you.
What is your message for the younger generation, since colleges are a hotbed for Democrats and,
Well, I tell
on
them,
social issues and, student loan forgiveness right now. How do you plan to tackle on that? Because probably that's going to be their,
Well,
hot
the-
issues.
the student loan forgiveness is, I tell them exactly what it is. It's just a wealth transfer to take away from people who, to be honest, in most of colleges, want fake jobs and fake economies. They're not the people who want the people taking out the student loan bailouts. They're not the people who realize that we need school choice. We want to invest in the student. Investing in the student is not government-backed loans. Investing in the student is having government policies that have different programs for community college, tangible learning. Not, teach someone how to farm, teach someone engineering, make it easier to get certified, turn it to apprenticeships. I was talking to, I was touring a preschool in Norwalk, and they have a very hard time finding help because of all the regulations and stuff controlled by the legislature. To me, instead of having a grad student in Norwalk community, who Connecticut's known for their teaching, why not have that class be them working there during the day? Get some life experience, get credit, get the taxpayer off the hook a little bit. That's what's going to reduce colleges. When you get rid of the government-backed loans and you make the college an open marketplace, people's education will come along with it. And young voters are zombies in school, especially after the 2 years of COVID and stuff. They know they're not getting lessons. Nothing is enticing to them. So we have to bring the education back to them. And when you tell them that you support, money following the student and programs in colleges that actually define a value and a trade, that's more interesting than just a liberal arts degree to go party for 3 years. The tide is shifting. And my generation especially, I was sold the bill of goods that, go to college, do this, do that, and I did it. Luckily, I played hockey and was able to knock them out with crazy loans, but, a lot of my friends, they have bachelor's degree and stuff, and, they're managers at Target. Not that that's a bad thing, they're but it's just the degrees have been watered down, and I think a lot of the mental health problem people have is because they don't have skills. They've been horizontally promoted into managerial positions that have no real meaning besides the growth of a giant corporation, not personal growth. So I think bringing everything back to local and telling students that we care about their education on a personal level rather than a group level is what they want to hear. And once they start believing that, the illusion of the college autocracy starts to dwindle.